time to watch Midwest Whitetail. Now!
A lot of people did correctly comment on the last Bowhunting Whitetails episode about where that intro was from. It was from the original Midwest Whitetail, I think 2008 through 2010 episode intro, and I distinctly remember filming that in the sunroom of our house in Albia. So quite a few people thought that it was Drew who said that, but it was actually me. So if it's time to watch Midwest Whitetail sounded familiar, that is what that was from. So thank you to everyone who commented and who's been supporting all that time. We did reach out to the winner of the hat through YouTube comments. So again, thank you for your support, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of the episode.
That intro cracks me up. That was 2008 Midwest Whitetail, and I'd forgotten just how hokey that really was. The voice, the time to watch was Jordan, and then that exclamation of now, that was Drew. And I remember that Jason Vickerman and I spent hours working on the graphics to make that deer mount smile and then wink. we were so green, but you know, bless our hearts, we had some big deer to hunt. If we hadn't, that whole thing would have flopped. We're gonna move on now to the next episode here of Hoyt's Bowhunting Whitetails, and this is gonna be a continuation of the walking and talking episode that we did last, and that was with Jordan and I going around the farm doing some scouting and looking for antlers. There's a bunch of subjects here, so rather than break it down into different themes, we'll just dive right in.
It's hard to see beds in 2D, but there's 3 or 4 right here, and I know as we go further out on the point there's even more. So this would be a likely spot to find antlers. If I remember right, out on the end of that point there was a whopping big bed. Last winter we saw it, and a whole bunch of rubs out there. So it could be the Jordan buck, the legendary Jordan buck. Hoyt's Bowhunting Whitetails is brought to you by Redneck Blinds, Code of Silence Apparel, Hunt Stand Pro Whitetail, Fuse Accessories, Elevate Tree Stands, B3 Releases and Broadheads, and Hoyt.
Okay, question. We're here checking through their beds, essentially walking right through their bedrooms. Do you think that that's gonna bother them, or would they be right back here again to bed next time, or would they be like, that was uncomfortable?
It'll bother them. It'd be, I mean, we've done the human analogy before where you find like muddy footprints in your living room.
Right.
You're like, oh man, you know, somebody's been in here. Well, then you find signs, you know, where they've been sitting in your favorite lounge chair.
Right.
You know, we've been sitting in their favorite lounge chair. I mean, that would be more like if we hunted the spot, probably.
Right.
We're the muddy footprints through their living room.
So my question was, next question is going to be, how long do you think until they no longer associated this spot with like, it's kind of iffy?
Probably a week to 10 days,
yeah.
I would bet.
This time of year?
Yeah, they would, any time of year, I think.
Yeah.
They'd be suspicious every time they came in here until they confirmed through multiple trips that it was a fluke.
Okay.
Yeah. But if they found it the second time, then you're kind of toast, because then they're not going to forgive that.
Right.
They're going to continue to use this, and then if they get some confirmation that, you know, that their sanctuary is being infiltrated, then they're probably going to start taking some more evasive action. Again, back to the human analogy, you find the muddy footprints, you know, 2 out of 5 days. You're probably going to put the house for sale or call the police or do something.
Right.
You're not going to keep living there,
no.
right? So that's the same thing.
I think one set of muddy footprints would probably be enough to put me on edge.
Yeah, you'd be a lot more cautious for sure. You might check the front door before you go in or whatever. And that's what they do. I mean, think of it in those terms and it makes a lot more sense, you know, how they react to us.
So they would, like today, for example, we came in here, walked around, they wouldn't necessarily avoid this spot and like never come back.
No.
They would just be like, kind of
a lot more careful,
looking around the corners and stuff.
They might not, when they smell our scent, if they come back, let's say tomorrow, they might not hang. they might move on. And then check it again in a day or two after that. But if they get repetitive, negative experiences, that's when they take really a more evasive action.
I see.
So you can get away with a lot of stuff once,
Yeah.
but you can't get away with it regularly.
That makes sense. Yeah, why didn't we hunt it last year?
Well, because we didn't know that there was a mature buck here.
Oh.
So basically, we only hunted spots where we thought there was a mature buck. Even if we overhunted those spots, it just didn't make sense to us, or at least to me, to hunt places where we didn't think that there was or know that there was. But we didn't have a camera anywhere near this.
Okay, that's what my next question was going to be.
Yeah, and the reason was because it's too far off the beaten path. The only way we could have done it would have been with a cell camera, and I just didn't have any. So I need to probably line up a few cell cameras so I could keep tabs on some of these more remote spots.
Last time I was up here was this time last year.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it's the last time I was here too.
Right. So it's just, it would be really hard and probably detrimental to put cameras out here and check them very often.
Yeah. That's why you'd probably have to put a cell camera on that heavy trail where it crosses that fence back there.
Yeah.
Because then you'd get a pretty good sense, not 100%. I mean, you could put one right in the bedding area up on top here, which would be kind of cool too, with all these beds around it, just to see what zigzags through here. But the other thing we noticed too, just as we were up here, like that's a bur oak, that's a bur oak, that's a walnut, is it? Yeah. And then there's a whole bunch of like great big giant black oaks up on top of the ridge, and there's all these acorn caps just littered through all of this area. Well, there's 15, 20 beds and probably 30 or 40 great big mature oak trees. These deer didn't have to leave.
Yeah.
There's more than that. There's probably 50 mature oak trees back here. So this was one of those spots where a buck really truly could have lived here. We wouldn't have known.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't coming out any place where we had cameras.
Right.
So all we knew was what was coming out to the obvious places.
Right.
And then, you just have to hope that everything was showing up. Well, some years like last year, they probably weren't.
Right. Interesting.
Yeah. Let's stop for an antler hunting tip.
Am I supposed to give one?
I can try.
Okay.
I'm not the world's greatest shed hunter, but if you think about it, the antlers are going to be where the deer are. So where are the bucks? This time of year, they're either in their bedding areas, they're in their feeding areas, or they're in the trails in between. So there's really not a whole lot of point in looking in just random places. Although as mild as it is this year, I mean, some of these bedding areas and feeding areas are pretty spread out. It's not nearly as narrowly defined as it might be when it's like really cold and there's snow on the ground and then they're going to the corn or whatever. But so you keep it simple. If you find, I had a buddy that was really good at it, a guy named Lee Murphy, and he hunted all over North America. Lee loved shed hunting and he had some giants, but he said that when you find a lot of fresh poop, deer droppings slow down. He said because that's where you're going to find the antlers. So I guess step number one to find antlers is find those little brown balls that are soft and squishy, but they're not little licorice things, so don't eat them.
My question is, how much do they roam around like in the spring and summer? Like we talk a lot about the rut, but what do they do the rest of the year?
They're pretty home-bodied the rest of the year. I think they have, well, we've talked about this a lot over the years, and we'll talk about it again as we get closer to the fall, but they have a summer range and a fall range.
Oh, yeah.
So now they'd be moving toward their summer ranges, I believe. A lot of times the summer range is really dictated by food supplies. Some of it's just historical. Like every year they go to this certain area, like 15 bucks will end up in a bachelor group on an alfalfa field or whatever. And I mean, 15's optimistic, let's just say 6 or 8. But I've seen some bachelor groups on that farm in southern Iowa that were 25, 30 bucks.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It was on soybeans back there. And that'll happen here too. I mean, we'll see it when we put beans out. If we get around to kind of check them all, we'll find a couple of them that have a grouping of bucks. And then again, it's testosterone driven. Once that testosterone levels start to rise, then they'll shed their velvet. They'll become a lot more intolerant of each other. And then they'll break up their bachelor groups, and then they'll start heading toward their fall ranges. So
do they bed in different places in the spring and summer than in the fall and winter?
Yeah, they do. Usually they're more open.
Okay.
More open areas, especially in the summer, because they can get away from bugs a little bit more that way, and the breeze kind of blows on them. But they generally go from more open cover in the summer. You know, it could be a brushy fence row. You know, they're not going to live there in November and December. Right. So they part of the fall range shift is moving toward thicker cover, but it's also just dispersing the bachelor groups and spreading out.
Interesting. Did you hear me?
Oh yeah.
I have another question.
I heard.
My question is, what's your favorite hunting story or your favorite hunt of all time? Like, what just popped to mind, like, first? Like, the hunt that you're like, that was pretty epic.
I think because of how much emotional equity I had invested in that hunt for that buck we called the double G4.
Yeah.
Because that was 4 years.
Yeah.
Because I hunted him when he was 4, 5, 6, and killed him when he was 7.
Wow.
So had a lot of history with that deer, had a lot of close calls, some big time screw ups.
Yeah.
You know, where it was just a huge deer. I mean, potentially, if things would have materialized just right for his antlers, he'd have been the walking world record for archery, because he wasn't very far away from it in 2011. And then he just didn't get bigger in 12.
Did you find his sheds from 2011?
That's the ones that's mounted in my office.
Oh, yeah.
He's in there twice.
Yeah.
One was him in 11, the other one was him in 12 when I killed him. But it was fun having Drew with on the recovery too. I don't know what you were doing, but he went with me, and got some pretty cool footage of Drew sitting there next to the deer asking me questions about the deer, you know, talking about it. So
I remember that one.
Good memories.
Because was the G5 right before that or right after?
He was in November of 2011.
Okay.
And then I messed up in late December, early January of the 2011 season on the other buck.
On the G4?
Yeah.
And then you ended up killing him in January?
No, I killed him in November.
The following fall.
Yeah, 2012.
Okay, I gotcha.
November in 12.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
Huh.
Oh, turkey gobbling, did you hear him?
I'll have to do some turkey hunting.
Yeah, March 13th.
Is it?
Today? No, it opens in April.
Yeah, like April 14th or 15th.
Yeah. Early, maybe early for youth, but you're not a youth anymore.
Oh, it's been a while.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining me today. We'll see you right back here again soon for the next episode of Hoyt's Bowhunting Whitetails. And remember to always dream big.